Hello, and welcome to our first video in the series on Pawsitive Pet Nutrition. The topic of pet nutrition can be confusing, and the sheer volume of information available online from experts, from web experts, is very intense. So the purpose of this series is to try to shed just a little bit of light on some important topics related to feeding your pet. My name is Joye Sears. I'm a registered veterinary technician, and I'm an instructor in the veterinary technology program at Dalhousie University. I'm also a pet nutrition advocate for Royal Canin Canada, a company which does make pet food for veterinary use. This presentation is not sponsored by or affiliated with Royal Canin, and it doesn't contain any brand-specific information. So today's topic deals with asking questions of your pet food company to figure out if they produce a high quality, well-balanced nutritional product that's right for your pet. So that's a topic that is really challenging for even veterinarians sometimes to be able to assess whether or not a food is a good food. So hopefully a few of the questions in this presentation will be able to help you with that. The information that I'm going to talk about is provided by the World Small Animal Veterinary Association. They have a committee on global nutrition, and it's made up of obviously veterinarians and actually now technicians as well from all over the world who decide kind of what the best way is forward. And nutrition is so important to good health that they have developed this list of questions to help you make choices about feeding your pet. So this is probably the number one question about nutrition that we see in veterinary hospitals and clinics. What do I feed? How do I know what is the right food for my pet? And as you can see, the options are almost endless. So it's easy to see why people are confused or worried and they want to make the best choice, and it's hard to know how to go about doing that. We need to start with some very basic information about the diet that you're interested in. And the first part is, what is the manufacturer's name and number? The name is a legal part of the bag label. So somewhere on that label, it's going to say the manufacturer's name. So I had this bag. So this is a photo of a bag from Royal Canin, and it does have their name. And in this case, it does have a toll-free number where you can contact them in Canada or United States to find out more information. Unfortunately, more labels look something like this, where you will see the name of the manufacturer and their location, but you won't necessarily see immediate contact information. The web is wonderful, so you can go online and look to see what the phone number is to try to reach them, or at least a mailing address, although obviously mail is not ideal in terms of getting answers to your questions. They may have an email. So usually you can track it down. One tip is that if it is very difficult for you to find a way to access the company just to ask your questions, you may want to be cautious about using the food, because most reputable companies are going to be very transparent about what's going on inside their plant. The first question, once you do get a hold of them, to ask is, do they have a qualified nutritionist employed on staff? So this is Dr. Jackie Parr, and she is a board certified veterinary nutritionist. So she was a veterinarian and she developed a specialty in nutrition. And so she's a good example of a qualified nutritionist. There are not very many board certified nutritionists in Canada. In fact, I think there's only 3. But you can also be a qualified nutritionist if you have a PhD in animal nutrition. So you've conducted research for that sort of thing. So finding out their name and what their credential is really important. And then you want to know, is this the person who formulates the diet? Is this the person who is making the plan for what goes into the food? And if not, if they don't have a qualified nutritionist, who is that person responsible for determining what happens and what products are going into a food, and that it is nutritionally balanced? So find out who it is that's actually doing that. And they should have a qualified nutritionist as a part of that team. Another question that a lot of people are interested in the answer to is, where are your foods produced and manufactured? And there's a real drive now to wanting things that are developed locally. And locally might mean regionally, it might mean nationally. So here in Canada, a lot of people are interested in having their food made in Canada. And that can matter in terms of sourcing of product and ingredients, or just personal preference. But one thing that you should really ask about is, do they own the manufacturing plant where the food is made? Because some companies don't, and they contract out to other places. And as soon as that's the case, what can happen is they don't have as much control over the quality of the ingredients, the safety of the process, as they probably should. So it's good to know if they actually own their own manufacturing plant. Speaking of quality control, we want to know what they do. How do they ensure that the food that is going into your pet is as safe as it can possibly be, that it's well balanced, that the ingredients have been processed appropriately, selected appropriately, that there's no chance of contamination? And we see a lot about pet food recalls, and we want to make sure that they're taking steps to make sure that that doesn't happen. So what are their quality control processes within their plant? Or within, the ingredients coming into their plant that are going to ensure that your pet is safe. This is an example of something called a guaranteed analysis, and you will see that on your bags of food. The guaranteed analysis is a breakdown of the protein, fiber, moisture, some very basic nutrients that are going into your food. And you will see that as a mandatory part, and it's always listed as minimums and maximums. And it unfortunately doesn't give us as much information as we would like about the quality of the diet. So another question to ask the company is, do they have a complete nutrient analysis available? Meaning, if I want to know exactly how much vitamin C is in there, not a minimum number, but an exact number, is that available? Is that information available for the diet that I'm interested in? And I should be able to get that information for any nutrient that is listed as being part of that diet. I should be able to get that. And unfortunately, some companies won't have that access, and they won't have completed that part of their studies. So it is good to know if they can tell you exactly what's in your food. Caloric value. So most companies will have some description of the caloric value on the food, but not all. So what you want to know with calorie content is, how many calories are there in a cup of dry food or per gram in a canned food? And the reason this is so important is that you really can't plan your weight management aspect of the diet. So does your pet need to gain weight? Does it need to lose weight? Does it need to stay the same? Unless you know exactly how many calories are going into their mouth every day. So if that information isn't available on the bag, it should be easily provided by the company that you're reaching out to. Product research is something that I think is really important, coming from a scientific basis and working in the veterinary industry. And so ask them if their diet has been the subject of any research. Have they actually studied it to see, for example, if it has a claim that it helps with dental care, does it really? Is there a study that says that? And not just internal research, but ideally published research, that it has been published somewhere reputable, for example, the Journal of American Veterinary Medical Association or the Canadian Veterinary Journal, or in scientific animal nutrition research journals. Have they actually looked at it to see what it does? All right, those are just a few things that are good starting points to find out. Some companies will have this information available freely. You can access it on their website, but more often you do need to dig a little bit deeper, and it is a really good starting point. Something to remember is, if your pet has special medical needs for nutrition, so if they have cardiac disease or renal disease, or they have some underlying issue, your veterinarian is really your resource for making plans for nutrition. So this is intended for healthy pets where you have lots of options to choose from. If you have any questions about this, please do feel free to contact me at joye.sears@dal.ca, and I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you or help you in the process of selecting a pet food. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm hoping to return with some more in this series very soon. Thank you.